Everybody, welcome back to Joe's Hot Takes 25, Season 2. We're going into Episode 13, that's a 1-3. Today I want to talk about, it is becoming a hot take, it really is. It's inclusion. I want to talk about inclusion. It is definitely becoming a hot take. So anyway, but hey, it's Joe's Hot Takes 25, right? So here, what we do, we ask questions, we try to provoke thought, sprinkle in a little bit of research and data, and let you decide. What do you think? What do you think? So when we start talking about this inclusion word, what do you think? I mean, it's kind of something that a lot of people dance around. Nobody really wants to talk about, but I think we need to talk about. And I think we need to have a real conversation. Open it up. Respectful conversation. No yelling, no pointing fingers, just a good conversation. All right, so here we go. There's a lot of questions that surround this topic, and it's just one word. It's called inclusion. And but let's try to keep this really focused, and let's talk about inclusion. Why do we, as a society, need inclusion? Why do we feel that we need it? I mean, I'm personally kind of a loner, and I do real well by myself, but I know that a lot of people are more, need that community, need that inclusion. And I guess that makes it a little harder for me to understand. So that's why when I jump into a hot take like this, I really don't want to throw in an opinion. I want to stay as centered as I can, and and just kind of put it out there. And maybe I'll learn something. Maybe I'll understand inclusion a little more. So anyway, let's talk about it. In television, in the media, we're seeing what I think, or what I'm hearing, is kind of a gross exaggeration of inclusion. And ultimately, does it help us unify, or does it create more division? And so those are the questions. So let's kind of dig into what the research actually says. So let's get a baseline set. What is inclusion? What does it mean? So inclusion in this context is the act of including, accommodating, or embracing people, ensuring that everyone is treated fairly and valued. It is about creating environments, whether socially, educationally, or professionally, where diverse individuals are welcomed, supported, and given equal opportunities to participate. Historically, this has focused on groups that were excluded or marginalized. All right, that all makes sense. You write that down, you read that, that all makes sense. Okay, but here's where things start getting a little bit uncomfortable, is have we gone too far? Have we gone too far with this inclusion? So the question alone, it tends to split people right down the middle, right? Some argue that inclusion, especially in areas like education, corporate DEI initiatives, some of that type of stuff, it has become performative, not practical, not effective, in some cases even counterproductive. And you'll hear it described, as you do some research on this, and as you listen to this, you'll hear this described as the illusion of inclusion. Just the illusion of inclusions. Oh, we're doing this to be more inclusive, but are you actually doing it? Is it actually working? Is it really making people feel more included, or is it separating and dividing? Okay, so on the flip side of that illusion of inclusion, there are supporters that argue just as strongly that inclusion is essential. That's what some people call too much, is really just society correcting decades, if not centuries, of imbalance. That's the way it's viewed by some people. They view that as, this is society's way of correcting imbalances that have gone on for decades, if not centuries. So let's break down some of these key perspectives. In education, there's something called the full inclusion movement. The full inclusion movement. And critics say it focuses too much on where students are taught instead of how they're taught. So it's how much on where students are taught instead of how they are taught. Some educators argue that forcing all students into the same environment can actually hurt those who need more specialized or structured support. Then there's the idea of that illusion of inclusion. And this is where organizations focus heavily on diversity, bringing people in, but fail to create an environment where those individuals actually feel welcomed, feel heard, or even feel safe. It turns into a numbers game, right? Representation without real integration. So you're not really integrating people in, you're just bringing people in so that you can fill numbers, so that you can give that illusion of inclusion. I used to work for a city government, and in city government, there's inclusion requirements, and it really is based on ethnicity. You need to have so many white, so many black, so many Asian, so many Hispanic, and even so many Native American. Interestingly, Native American can really cover a couple of different areas in this DEI or this illusion of inclusion. So it's interesting when you say, well, we want to have our agency or department within the city represent the population of our city. So if our population is 60% white, 30% black, 20%, I've already ruined those numbers, but you get the point. If I'm a percentage of white, percentage of black, percentage of Hispanic, mix in a small number to just make it feel right, to put in a number of Asian and a number of Native American, now we have the illusion of inclusion. But do these people really feel that they were included the right way? Do they really feel safe, included, heard, seen in that environment? I don't know. I really don't. But some say, no, not at all. And others say, well, but it's important. Whether or not it's important to have that optic that we represent our community. Okay. Just throwing it out there at this point. This is just information. I don't know. Is it really a representation? And what about tokenism? Is it just tokenism that we're doing to people? We're tokenizing them to make them fit in to the category? I don't know. In the corporate world, DEI has become a major talking point. It's huge, right? You're hearing about it in the news. The federal government is pushing against it, the current administration. So some argue that expectations have become really unrealistic or excessive. And others push back and say the idea of inclusion is actually dying in business. And others say that no, companies are actually doing better because of it, because they're bringing in more diversity into their workplace and into their workplace culture. So there's your performance versus equity. It's like, are the people that you're bringing in, are they just there to fill a hole? Are they there to just give the illusion of inclusion? Or are the people you're bringing in actually quality people that are doing the job and helping the company excel and grow? So, but I think in all fairness, if you have inclusion without equity, then it's just surface level, right? We're just checking boxes. If there's no equity, You're just checking boxes, and that's not okay. And where does that leave us? Well, some people see necessary progress. Others see overcorrection. But most people probably are somewhere in that what we call the messy middle. They're like not really sure. Like, I don't know. Are we overcorrecting, or is this something that we needed to be doing? Did we need to be more inclusive and bring more people in, or are we blowing this thing way out of proportion? So let's shift gears a little bit and let's look at something that most of us interact with every day, and that is television and media. And let's look at how representation is handled in television and media. So I don't know whether you noticed or not, but representation has definitely changed a lot. Today, it's common, and I mean common, to see characters, and you know this because you watch TV, you watch movies, you see this in every aspect. We see characters who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, interracial, a lot of interracial couples, and there's even combinations of some of these identities. So, and it's really not subtle. It's not subtle. It's widespread across platforms. You see a lot of commercials now even where you have interracial couples. And that's okay because interracial couples are real. It's a thing. But is it so prevalent that virtually every commercial reflects something of either LGBTQ or interracial? I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of it. I worked in law enforcement for years and worked around police and fire. And it's interesting because there's a show on TV. It's called Chicago Fire. And if you watch Chicago Fire, it seems like the majority of the firefighters are either gay or lesbian or somehow intertwined in some sort of a weird incestuous relationship, which I don't think really reflects what fire departments are really like across the United States. But it's what's out there. It's what's happening. And like I said, it's not really subtle. So there's some recent reports out there. I did a little research that show that over half of LGBTQ characters on television are also now people of color. Look that up. Do that research. So was this an attempt to be more inclusive, or is this just gotten so far out of hand that it's what sells? I don't know. That's a pretty significant shift from where media was even just like 10 years ago, just in the last decade. So you'll see this, what I'm talking about, reflected in a wide range of shows. And I'll give you some ideas. Here's some series. Heartstopper, Heartbreak High, Our Flag Means Death, Sort of, The Last of Us, 911, Lone Star, Bridgerton, Station 19. See, now there's two first responders platforms right there. The Ultimatum, Queer Love, Posse, Interview with the Vampire. Everything now all feature diverse casts with intersecting identities. It's just, these are just all these different shows and movies and things where you just have this diverse cast and like it says, intersecting identities. So we're not just talking about representation anymore. Now we're talking about intersectionality, right? Intersectionality. We're crossing over and we're crossing characters who embody multiple identities at once, multiracial, queer, trans, international perspectives. It's layered, right? Streaming platforms in particular are leading the charge here, with about 51% of LGBTQ characters in recent sessions are being people of color. And there's a steady increase in multiracial LGBTQ representation across the board. So you're seeing a progression of inclusions. So we're going to start with including ethnicity. And then after ethnicity, we started including LGBTQ. Now that we've included ethnicity and LGBTQ, now we're going to start mixing those and introducing even more characters and representations and things like that. Okay, so I guess the debate or the hot take here is this a fair reflection of reality, or is it something else? I don't know. Some people say it's an indoctrination. Others call it overdue representation. So let's look at both sides, okay? So I did a little numbers check in here. From a number standpoint, about 9% of U.S. adults identify as LGBTQ+. That's as of 2026. So about 9% of adults in America identify in one of those categories of LGBTQ+. But among the younger generations, and this is where the argument of indoctrination is really coming in, is of the younger generations, those numbers jump significantly. Roughly, are you ready for this? 23%, almost 1/4 of Gen Z, are identifying as LGBTQ+. Almost 25%, it's 23. And of the Gen Z, that's Gen Z, and of the millennials, 14%. So of a national average of about 9% of adults across the board, now when you start going down into the generations, the Gen Z generation, almost 1/4 of them are identifying in some category of LGBTQ+, and 14% of millennials. Why? And the question is this learned behavior? Is it because it's more accepted and they were always there, they just didn't come up, they just didn't come out? Or is this just a learned behavior and it's cool? Like, it's just cool to be labeled in this category. I don't know. It's really, that's the hot take, right? Which way does this go? So depending on what demographic you're looking at, representation in media can either feel really, really accurate or it can feel really, really exaggerated. So for these older adults like myself that come from older generations, I feel like it's very over-exaggerated. However, clearly, as you can see in this result, if you're a Gen Z, you probably feel like, hey, 1 in 4 people on a show identify somewhere in LGBTQ+, and that would represent their group, their generation. So, wow, that's pretty interesting. Again, I mean, I try to leave my opinions out, but I'm going to be honest. I really lean towards that this is more of an indoctrination, and it's being put in front of us and shoved down our throats. So, in virtually every show that you want to watch, that you start just accepting it. You think, oh, okay, well, gosh, I guess 1 in 4 people are gay, lesbian, or trans, and the majority of firefighters and police officers are gay or lesbian or working on being trans in some way. I don't know. That's just kind of, hey man, I don't know. Wow. Okay. So it does kind of feel like, in a way, a deliberate push to reshape societal norms around gender and relationships and family. It kind of does. On the other side, though, I got to give you both sides. The proponents of this argue that the media is finally catching up to reality. Not creating reality, but catching up. And I don't know. Is that true? Are they catching up or are they creating? Good question. Good part of the hot take. Now, there's also some research that I found showing that exposure matters. Around 80% of non-LGBTQ individuals who have seen LGBTQ representation in media report being more supportive of equal rights. Okay, that's heavy. That's 80%. 80% of just straight people that are watching these medias, these shows, are feeling like they're more supportive now of equal rights. That's a pretty powerful stat. So representation can normalize. It can reduce prejudice, clearly, 80%. And for people who rarely saw themselves reflected on screen before, it can be validating in ways that are hard to quantify. I don't understand it, but someone in that lifestyle understands that. And for the first time, maybe, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel that they have value. Which, even me, a Mr. Loner over here, I think it's important. You want to be seen, heard, valued in some way, of course. All right. So let's see. How about this? Let's take the business angle of this. Whether you like it or not, inclusion sells, right? Younger audiences in particular, we've just talked about the generations, are more likely to engage with content that reflects diversity. So for studios and networks, this isn't really just a social thing now, and now it's an economic thing. Now it's a way to make money, right? Now I can make money because I know that these younger generations, they feed off of that. So let's sell it. And the storytelling itself has really evolved. These characters that are LGBTQ characters are no longer defined solely by a struggle or a tragedy, but they're actually being portrayed in everyday roles, in complex roles, as complex, flawed humans, like all of us. And that shift is widely seen as a move toward a more authentic representation. And so, I don't know. Again, not everybody sees it that way, and I get that. For some, the pace of change or the way it's presented feels like a reflection, maybe less of a reflection, more of a persuasion, less of a persuasion. I don't know. So now we got to get to another big question, right? And this one's been eating at me since I brought it up a little while ago about the generations. Why is it? Why are so many young people identifying differently today? Why? That's crazy. I don't think I knew a single gay or lesbian student when I was in school. There wasn't any, especially where I went to school, which was up in Wyoming in cowboy country. But so evidently, if there were, they were very quiet about it. But the numbers are pretty hard to ignore. All right, you ready? We talked about this. Over 20%, right? Almost 25%, 23% of Gen Z identify as LGBTQ plus in some studies. Not in all studies, but in some. And that's a dramatic increase compared to us old guys, right? So what's driving that? And so here's a couple key factors I found when I did some research. First, obviously the reduction or reduced stigma that's attached to LGBTQ, right? So younger generations have grown up in a world that is overall more accepting. My generation, much less accepting, but these newer generations, much more accepting. So people feel a little more safe about being open about who they are or what they believe in. And then there's the visibility portion of this. When people see others like them, it becomes easier to understand and express their own identity. And you see this when you're portraying it on television, that now all of a sudden it's okay. I feel more comfortable, so I can go to school and be who I am, be who I want to be. And then the fluidity of it. Many young people are moving away from rigid labels, right? Terms like bisexual and queer are being used more broadly, especially amongst women. So it's okay to use these terms now, where those used to be really bad terms to use. And now it's very much more accepted than ever before. And then, of course, there's social media. So online communities provide spaces for exploration of these feelings or these ideas, connection, and affirmation, right? Affirmation. So you have now a whole community that will definitely be on your side if that's where you're identifying. And then there's just this whole generational mindset. And that's the Gen Z tends to view identity as something more flexible and less fixed than my generation, right? So they're viewing identity as, to me, you're a man, you're a woman. It's simple. It's biological. It is what it is, male, female. But Gen Z, we're seeing a generational mindset of, I get it. You could be man, you could be woman, but you could be both at the same time, or either at the same time. It's interesting. So that's still up, I think, for debate, and let's see how that hot takes out. But most studies, which surprised me, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. This surprised me. Most studies suggest that this behavior is not a learned trait or a social contagion, but rather a reflection of people feeling more comfortable about being open. So that tends to make me wonder, have we always had nearly 25%, nearly 1 in 4 people that are LGBTQ? Always? That's been like that since the dawn of man? I don't know. It's kind of what the research is pushing back at me. And so I'm trying to understand it, and I'm trying to be open-minded about it. But I still kind of jump on the argument with others that the peer influence and online culture really probably do play a role in shaping how identities are expressed. And I think there's a level of like coolness. I think there's people that feel like, oh, this is just, it's super cool. Like I'm whatever. I identify in this particular manner. Wow. There are also patterns within the data. Over half of the LGBTQ Gen Z individuals, over half, identify as bisexual. So not only are they 25% saying I'm fit into LGBTQ somewhere, but 50% of the Gen Z individuals that were interviewed or that were a part of this particular survey that I looked up identify as bisexual. That's really interesting. And young women are nearly twice as likely as young men to identify as LGBTQ. That I understand. I think that everybody's like, oh, it's a girl. Okay, fine. That's cool. But if a guy does, then it's like, oh, what's wrong with that guy? You know? I get it. I'm trying to come out of my my ancient shell and understand more. Researchers, including those involved in long-term studies like the Pride study at Stanford, suggest that many of these individuals were always there. They're just more visible now. So that goes back to my question that I said, has it always been this way? Evidently, according to some researchers believe, yes. At the same time, other observers believe that for a portion of young people that identify maybe that it's a fluid thing or maybe even just a temporary thing. They're just trying to flow in with everybody else, and maybe they feel like they're going to be gay or lesbian or whatever, but then they change their mind as they grow older and evolve a little bit and mature. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. But I think as people grow and build careers and form families, you see a little bit of a transition out of that, but equally, talking about television shows. I was watching a show the other day where the man had been married, had children, had a wonderful family life, and years later, 20 years after the marriage and the kids are growing, the husband and wife, split up. And he realized that he prefers to be with men. And he decided he's gay now. And so there you go. There's no rhyme, no reason. There's no line. It just is. And we're all trying to understand it. Some people, I think, feel like they understand it already. I think I'm still trying to understand. And I don't know how well I'll understand all of that, but I'm at least willing to listen to both sides and learn as much as I can. So it comes down to this. The truth is, we really just don't know. We really don't know yet, but we're going to see. This is a relatively new shift on a pretty large scale. Like I said, 10 years ago, you didn't hear about this. So this is all happening very quickly and very large scale. Like it's boom, it's out there everywhere. So time will ultimately tell us how much of this is long-term change versus just a generational exploration. I tend to believe, I tend to believe this is more of a generational exploration, that as people age and grow and become more embedded in society, working, earning, paying taxes, raising children, that you kind of slide out of that fantasy role. That's the way I see it. I know I'll probably get a lot of hate mail for that, but I'm just being honest. So the question, right? Are we really reflecting reality, or are we shaping it? And is this a progress, or is this an overcorrection? Those were the questions. I gave you some facts. I gave you a little research. Chew on that. See what you think. Like most things we talk about here, it's just not black and white. It's not. It's layered. It's evolving. And it's definitely worth thinking about, always worth talking about. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope that today's episode gave you something to consider. Maybe challenged a perspective or two. Opened a door for some meaningful conversations. That's what we're looking for. As always, folks, stay curious, stay informed. I can't say it enough. Fact check everything before taking a stance. And always be well, be kind. I'll see you next time on Joe's Hot Takes 25.